Hello, everyone. Welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle, and I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, channeler, and astrologer here to give you an energy update for the solar annual eclipse in Aquarius coming up on February 17th, 2026. Let's talk a little bit about what a solar eclipse is. A solar eclipse is a very powerful new moon. A new moon is like a new beginning. And when we combine it with the nodal points, the south node and the north node, this is not just any new beginning and it's not just a powerful new beginning. It takes on a tone that is karmic, fated, or destined because the south node and the north node are like 2 points in the sky, with south node illuminating, in this case in Virgo, illuminating our karma, our past, things that we're moving away from, things that we're outgrowing, things that, gifts and talents that we need to use um, in higher ways. And the North Node here representing a point of new growth, new developments, the direction you're going in that helps you rebalance overall. And of course, fated or destined events that occur. And so, generally speaking, from more of like a soul perspective or spiritual perspective, a time of allowing, a time where there could be things that are hidden that get illuminated. There could be some endings, natural endings, surprise endings, powerful endings. There could be powerful new beginnings as well. The endings that need to occur so that you have the space for the new beginning. And where there are pivots in our lives that align us in the direction that we need to go in. And so you can think of eclipses as like these chiropractic adjustments from your soul. If you're out of alignment in some way, then these eclipses can serve as a type of alignment in the overall rebalancing that you need to do in your life. So currently we have the North Node in Pisces at 8 degrees and the South Node in Virgo. And then we actually have the solar eclipse happening in Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. So if you have fixed placements in Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, especially around the 28th degree, give or take 5 degrees, then this eclipse is going to have more of a powerful impact on you, especially if it's interacting with one of your personal placements in your chart, like your sun, moon, rising, some of the points in your chart, like your midheaven or your IC. These would suggest more powerful new beginnings for you, things that are going to really stand out for you. Now, oftentimes these eclipses open up a window between two eclipses. They always come in pairs. And so we're going to have another eclipse coming up in March, and that eclipse is going to be a total lunar eclipse in Virgo. So I'll make another video about that. But there's quite a lot going on in February. The first thing that's going to be happening before the eclipse is we're going to have Saturn moving into Aries on February 13th, depending on your time zone. In Hawaii, it's going to be on February 13th. And this is a big deal because Saturn, the planet of responsibility and commitment, and basically our soul's architect that develops our lineage over time by what we build, what we commit to, what we lean into, where we do the work in our lives, including some of the hardships that we have to move through that help us mature and master things. Saturn is moving into Aries nice and firmly this year. So Saturn has been in Pisces since March 2023. That's when it entered Pisces. So it takes about 2.5 years per sign. And last year it peaked into Aries between May and sometime in the autumn time. And then it went back into Pisces. And so for this outer planet to move into a new sign signifies a shift in energies, especially since Saturn's going to be in Aries for another 2 years or so. Now, the thing I'd like to note about Saturn moving into Aries is that we are, currently finalizing this transit of Saturn through Pisces. So there may have been karmic themes related to your spirituality, related to your intuition, related to trusting the unknown, your imagination, your creativity, your dreams, where you may have gone into fantasy or gone through disillusionment experiences or misaligned yourself with authority figures that were maybe taking advantage of your kindness, your empathy, lessons around boundaries and spiritual maturity and maturing our feminine energy. Saturn is now, and sometimes with Saturn in Pisces, there can be themes of, having to make boundaries and go through, embodiment around something you're embodying, the dreams that you're creating, embodying your dreams, as well as boundaries with your empathy, your healing, your compassion, and so Saturn is going to be moving into Aries. Now, Aries is a totally different energy. It's a fire sign, it's a masculine sign, and it's a cardinal sign. So this is more of an active energy with Saturn in Aries. Saturn in Aries is kind of a misfit. In astrology, we say that Saturn in Aries is in its fall, which essentially means that these two energies have to work much harder to get the same results. Aries, for example, is a fire sign that initiates. It's a cardinal sign. So when it initiates, it can be like a burst of energy or like a firework. You think about a firework, there's a lot of energy that happens all at once to create the firework. It launches and it creates this firework. And Aries are built to initiate, essentially. They can put a lot of energy into initiating something, being enthusiastic or optimistic or action oriented, towards putting a lot of energy to get something started. And then after that, usually an Aries goes through periods of time where they're possibly resting or needing to recover or kind of waiting for that next initiation. They might get bored along the way and not really have that same strength around carrying things out through and through, but the excitement of getting something started. Now, Saturn, on the other hand, is a planet of time. It takes time to build, it takes time to master something, it takes time to embody something, it takes time to, build your legacy, build what you're doing. So having Saturn here wanting things to take time, needing time to build things, and Aries doing things very quickly through initiation, quick initiation. This can essentially be an energy that challenges all of us in some ways. Kind of those moments where you need to get something started, but you don't have everything you need to lay down the foundations. Like not being completely fortified with the resources you need or the time that you need or the way you can do it in a way that lasts well. So, like, let's say all of a sudden you have an issue in your backyard and you have an issue with wild animals coming into your backyard and it becomes a major issue. Maybe they're like digging up your plumbing or something, and you have to quickly put up a fence. And let's say you don't have enough money to purchase like a really good fence, and so you're putting up a rinky-dinky fence and you're doing it really quick, like overnight, and the next day you're tired and you have other things to do and you're a little burnt out, but you got a fence up. It's just really not the end result. It's not the best result. You have to work harder over time to kind of fortify that fence, right? So that's just an example of like how there could be like sudden moments that we have of needing to start something and not really having the time to get it started, and having to kind of put in a lot of energy all at once and possibly have to sustain that in some ways when you might not have the full amount of energy to sustain that over time. So this is a big shift. Collectively, Saturn can represent our governments and the military and our systems and the old systems. But having it go into Aries and be at the 0 degree point in Aries, this is like a fresh, potent Aries energy. And this is like the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is self-focused and it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's about our identity. And with it in combination with Neptune here at 0 degrees, this is a conjunction of two outer planets. And so this is the other big thing that's happening this month around February 25th. We're going to have this conjunction with Saturn and Neptune in Aries for the Hawaii time zone. And Neptune is all about the collective, our ideals, our dreams, what we fantasize about, our delusions. To have this in combination with Neptune, this can bring up like a restructuring energy, something dissolving that needs to be dissolved. Like on a collective level, this can be like old systems dissolving, old structures dissolving, old energy dissolving, veils, of perception, veils of how the collective has identified with a system could be dissolving. And so when we think about collective events recently, we think about a lot of the exposing of the shadow that's been happening collectively. And, it's not just one person's shadow. It's like a collective shadow. It's a global shadow. We're exposing some abuse or exposing some hidden organizations or exposing hidden agendas. We're exposing the real agendas. We're seeing the disorder in the systems. We're seeing the tyrannical kind of activity, authoritarian activity in the systems. And you can think of that as being exposed. The shadow of that is being exposed, and collectively, people are awakening to that. People are becoming aware of like, the world is not what I thought it was. The government is not what I thought it was. The government's not going to take care of me. The government, is not what I thought it was. The government's been corrupted in some way, or the system's been corrupted. The old world is not working for us. And so we have to kind of take things into our own hands. You can think about Aries as like a warrior, like a spiritual warrior with Neptune in Aries. And that archetype is all about aligning with our purpose and directly manifesting our dreams and desires and embodying what we need to embody to go directly after what we want. And no one else, with Aries, it's not like this communal energy. It's very self-focused. And people with Aries in their charts, these are people that are pioneering. These are people that something's not going to happen in their lives for them. They have to make it happen themselves. They're the ones that are going to manifest their desires, go directly for what they want, go into new territory, break through into unknown territory in their lives. So Aries helps them be brave. It helps them cut through blockages and challenges and go for it. Go for it through bursts of energy, go through it with enthusiasm and optimism, go through it with action. So, when we have this conjunction here coming up on February 25th, this could indicate a global event. It could indicate um, just the dissolving of what we once identified with in our systems. Possibly we're getting exposed um, in such a way that people are releasing veils of perception. People are awakening. People are, because Neptune is a planet of spiritual awakening. Maybe we are becoming aware of secret or taboo organizations. We are exposing abuse. We are seeing things for what they are, or we're at least seeing the holes in our old system that just aren't currently working for us. And this is kind of like a reset energy. You can think of it as a reset. So when you have a planet go through a conjunction, it's starting the beginning of a new cycle. And it's starting the beginning of this new cycle, at this at these early degrees, and this first sign of the zodiac. And so this is like a new world, that's beginning. This is like a new society that is beginning. It's like a new government or new system or new structure that's beginning. However, it's not something that like falls in our laps. It's something that we have to go directly towards ourselves. We have to make it happen, especially with Saturn here. We might not be fully resourced with what we need to go directly after what we want, but we got to do the work and do it anyways. We might not be fully prepared. We might not be fully ready, but we're going to do it anyways. This is also going to bring up themes of warrior-like archetypes and young males. We might see more of the rise of younger males rising to kind of lead or fight, or this could unfortunately also bring up some sacrifice stuff. People sacrificing themselves for a cause, the sacrificial martyr kind of energy, like Joan of Arc. This can also be, on a more personal level with us that have already gone through our awakening, those of us that are more sensitive and maybe we're healers or intuitives or community leaders or just conscious leaders to some degree, creatives, entrepreneurs. This is like us entering into the beginning of the new world. It's kind of like the old society is crumbling, the old structure is crumbling. We have new ideals now. We have new desires now. And it's kind of a time of rising, of people rising to the occasion to advocate for themselves, to move forward, to build a system that's going to be more collectively supportive, for humanity, so to speak. So this particular moment in history, this is kind of historical, and whether it impacts you directly or not, it can bring up a form of chaos or disorder or disillusionment or dissolving of things. It'll be interesting to see what kind of global events occur around this time. And it will also be interesting to see how that impacts you on a personal level. So, bringing it back to a personal level, this is very much like new earth energy. This is very much like people that are not doing well in this old system that really came here to build a new system or fight for a new system or create businesses in a new system or be leaders in a new system or to initiate a new system. And so this is This is like a very collective awakening kind of moment and reality check, but it's also for us on a personal level, like this initiation, it's like an initiation into what you're really here to do, your life purpose, your divine purpose, how you align your masculine energy and how you channel your masculine energy in more of a sacred way. This is a time that's certainly confusing for a lot of people, full of fear and confusion with these two planets so conjunct. It's hard to see clearly what's happening. It's a lot of spiritual fog and a lot of reality checks. And this could be a time where there's a lot of that change happening inside of you, like a spiritual GPS that's being activated. Like maybe you had an idea of what you wanted to do, or maybe you have something calling you, or maybe you're starting to align with a particular direction. Maybe that's been confusing. Maybe that's been hard to embody. Maybe that's been hard to go after in a direct way. This would be the beginning of this initiation where we start to kind of take some leaps in a wise way and more of a grounded way. This is where we're embodying what we need to do to initiate something new in our lives that we are building, or this is like an embodiment that we're allowing to occur so that we can, go after our desires for real, in this new world. This is very much new energy, new world, new earth kind of energy, and our initiation into that. So very exciting, but oftentimes, can be chaotic, disruptive. Um, for people that are kind of waking up, this collective awakening that's happening on more of a massive level. For these people, it could feel destabilizing. It could feel really scary and confusing. Of course, if you've had your spiritual awakening, you know what that's like. And, in their eyes, the world might be falling apart, like the sky is falling, people freaking out, a lot of fear in the air. But anyone that's gone through transformation or, you know, phases of awakening, phases of enlightenment, phases of self realization, phases of ascension, phases of soulful evolution. This is this is something that you might recognize, like the pattern of how change occurs, energetically speaking, and how that's happening on more of a global scale now, not just in our personal lives. We're so used to just going through these evolutions, the soulful evolutions, our enlightenment process more alone, kind of outside of society, where we're disconnected from society, where we have a hard time integrating into society. But this is kind of like that moment on earth where a lot of people wake up, and you might become more alert or aware at some point of how you come back into society, how you, how your gifts, how your purpose aligns for you as you emerge back into society, as you support the collective, as you serve the collective or serve society or serve your people, whoever that might be, your little world, in your own world. Who are you serving? What are you creating? What kind of vision do you have that helps innovate and bring and support kind of this new system that's being initiated at this time? So this isn't going to be like necessarily an immediate, like, yay, now we have a new system. Like this can take a lot of time, can take years. It's a cycle, right? It's just the beginning of a cycle. This cycle, Saturn moves every 2.5 years. Neptune moves in and out of signs like every 14 years or so. So these are long cycles that we're talking about. And this particular timing right now, what we're seeing is the exposing of a lot of shadows. And this is creating disorder, uh, dissolving of how we currently relate to our systems and authority figures and leaders. All of that is going through a major exposing. We have Lilith here, a dark goddess, this energy that can bring things up to the surface that are hidden, especially taboos, things related to our sexuality, the feminine, females, manipulation, domination, control, where things have been suppressed, where things have not been equal. And it's in Sagittarius, which can be linked to spirituality, philosophy, our beliefs, our dogma, our righteousness. And so with Lilith in Sagittarius, on more of a collective level, we're seeing, and this is a very collective kind of energy update right now because, this solar eclipse is in Aquarius. It is a collective energy. It is like an air sign that thinks about the collective energy. So I will kind of take it down to more of a personal level, but this solar eclipse in particular is very much an interplay between us as enlightened beings, as conscious humans, as divine humans on earth that are entering into collective, coming together collectively, coming into the collective again to play a role of some kind, right? And this is the beginning of that. If you haven't already felt the call to kind of come back out of your caves and out of your cocoons and go back into the collective. And we all have our own natural timing around that. So no pressure if you're not feeling it. But some of us, there's been big waves of people like feeling the call to kind of reemerge into society. So Lilith, back to Lilith, Lilith is squaring the nodes. And it's leading up to a pretty tight square with the nodes. It's not at a direct square yet, but it's pretty close. And, like I mentioned, collectively, this is like a turning point. This is like what we must shed in order to move forward, what we have to let go of in order to move forward, what we have to, the discernment that we need, as well as the intuition that we need. The discernment and refinement and improving that we can do for a higher purpose, with where we have been delusional, lost in fantasy, escaping, looking the other way, and needing to be more grounded or more focused on our dreams, or surrendering or trusting the unknown, or following our intuition on some level. So we've seen the exposing of files and emails. We've seen the suppression of our voices. We have seen the government overstepping, laws, and things are getting very exposed. And this is like a karmic exposure. This is a fated exposure, right? Where we're meant to see this. We're not going to see this. We are going to get exposed to the taboo, hidden organizations, what's happening in the underbelly of the shadows of the shadowiest, shadows of the system. And that's what Lilith is doing. It's exposing. And one way that Lilith helps us liberate and unsuppress ourselves is first to expose it. So this exposure is directly correlated to what is dissolving in society, what is dissolving, what is breaking down, what is being illuminated as not working, as something that is realistically corrupt or been held secret against us. Um, this is this is the necessary exposing for all of us to get that reality check and to shift into action, essentially. Get that reality check and then shift into action. All right, so going back to this new moon, It's at the late degrees of Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. It's like a visionary. It's an intellectual energy, and it's where we can envision something and work with the material world to innovate it. You know, this sign is ruled by like inventors or scientists or astrologers. You know, where you've got a lot of information, you're putting it all together because you have a mission or a vision or some kind of fixed philosophy or some kind of fixed thinking pattern, you know, that takes you in the direction of taking all this information and putting it together and creating something, innovating something that can ultimately benefit other people as well. So this is a very objective energy, detached, objective energy, just like a scientist needs to be, just like an inventor, you know, needs to be creative. They have, you know, they have an overall idea of what they want to invent, but they have to experiment. You know, they have to think outside the box, you know, and so oftentimes this is very eccentric energy known as a humanitarian sign because often the inventions, the discoveries, the way that we use the stars are ways that benefit others. Um, so this is a new beginning in Aquarius. This is about the collective. You know, this is starting themes of our collective experience, what how we need to how we need to pursue our visions and innovate what currently exists to manifest these visions that we have. Our vision, something that might be outside of the box, something that might not be currently existing, something new, something ahead of our time. Oftentimes, if you have placements in Aquarius, you're ahead of your time in some way. And this does bring up a collective tone. So we are going to be feeling, you know, collective shifts around the solar eclipse. The other thing I'll point out is that we, you know, have this solar eclipse with Pluto, Vesta, the goddess of sexual healing and devotion to our sacred purpose. And that is conjunct with Mars, our masculine energy. This is a very powerful new beginning with Pluto in Aquarius by sign, but by degree, we have Vesta and Mars in a conjunction with this, which means this isn't just our masculine energy being driven towards this new beginning. It's sacred. It's aligned with something sacred. It's a healing for our masculine energy. We have it in a trine with Hygeia, the goddess of miraculous healing, in a sextile with Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries. This is an alchemy that's occurring, you know, with this taking place in the same sign with Pluto at 4 degrees. You could think of it as an alchemy that occurs, part of a transformation that occurs related to our masculine energy, and this initiation that requires action. It requires our action. This is where we are aligning with a sacred purpose, aligning with our divine missions, aligning with what we came here to do, that we can be devoted to, committed to, that has a higher purpose, that serves not just you but humanity. And we also have this solar eclipse squaring Uranus. Now, this is change. Uranus in Taurus, it's going direct. It's squaring this new beginning. This is a new beginning that brings change. And this type of change could be unexpected or disruptive or spontaneous. or requires action to create that change. And all the above. It could be awakening, it could be something shocking. It could be more collective. We definitely have like a very strong collective tone to this eclipse. And so something collectively could be happening, like a historical event, right? And this requires a change in our action. When we like think about the pandemic that happened, that was a collective historical event and it affected the entire globe. And we all had to change what we were doing. We had to adapt, change, think outside the box, innovate something in order to go through that experience. We had to work from home. We had to make our businesses online. We had to, make sure we took care of our health in better ways. Like there was a lot that had to change around all of that. So this square with Uranus is an indication of some form of change, but it requires action with it also squaring, this conjunction with Mars and Vesta. That's like our energy. That's our action. That's us moving through our obstacles. That's where we put our masculine energy. That's where we direct our energy. And with that square to Uranus, that's like we need to elevate our action to a sacred purpose. We need to break through obstacles. We need to take action in order to have this new beginning. We have to, um, elevate our self-worth, elevate our standards, build um, financial security. We have to, nurture what we're growing in our lives in the most sacred way possible. Now, on a collective level, this could be unexpected. Um, this can bring up events that are unexpected, shocking, disruptive. With Mars transiting after this new moon, it's going to have a direct square with Uranus, which is known for more violence and kind of explosive energy, like a volcano going off, more fighting, um, rebellion, revolutionary protesting. So these are qualities that we could see collectively becoming more initiated, and where people are being called in to participate. And so I've been saying this for a while. You know, this is this is where you can look at your own personal life and kind of ask yourself, where have I been feeling suppressed, or where has my philosophy or dogma um, or my beliefs, where has that been suppressed? Where have I not been able to, um, where have I been suppressed by someone else's beliefs or dogma? Where have I suppressed others with beliefs and dogma? What is being exposed to me now, even if it's not related to beliefs, dogma, righteousness, um, your higher your higher goals, your higher mission, your higher purpose in life. What is what has been exposed to you by Lilith recently? This is something to feel into for yourself. What are you asking to shed so that you can move forward? What I love about this eclipse, though, is that we have Venus in Pisces, which is exalted, which means it does phenomenally well in Pisces. Very dreamy and romantic and um, spiritual, think soul, family, soul relationships. Um, it's going to be conjunct the North Node. So this is aiming us in a new direction with us collectively on a relationship level. Our hearts, our relationships, our values, our aesthetics, the way we come together. And we also have Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom, also in this conjunction. And so this is a coming together of people to counsel each other, to strategize and counsel with each other. So, like I mentioned, what's happening collectively around this solar eclipse impacts us personally. It might require us to reach out to people where we need to strategize, come together, organize. get support around your own dreams. You know, if you're not um, immediately impacted by a collective event, it's not maybe directly impacting you. It might be more about your personal creations, what you're initiating in your life, connecting with the right person to help you strategize and make decisions and do things in a wise way. Um, create your dreams with more strategy overall. And we even have Jupiter still retrograde in Cancer. It's going to be trining the North Node, going to be trining Venus. You know, Jupiter is that planet of expansion, good luck, fortune. Um, a trine can indicate something fast or something um, that comes in through ease, or just something very supportive. And so there could be like a big movement. You know, there could be like a very big movement that occurs, a very big organization that starts to occur, people coming together. This could be, where we're really coming together as family, building more security, emotional foundations in our relationships, seeking counsel and strategy from each other, and, really connecting based on our hearts or based on our values or our dreams or our morals, um, in a way that brings us together, our morality. But on a personal level, it's really about who you're becoming, what your dreams are, and aligning with your sacred purpose, being committed to that, devoted to that, and being ready for that initiation, um, the initiation that is natural, for you to start um, around how you participate in collective change, in collective renewal, in collective revolution, in collective. Yeah, this is probably more like global, global revolution, global reform, an energy reset globally. This is kind of the beginning of people unsuppressing, healing confidence, moving through their fears, coming together and doing the work, doing the work, even if you're burnt out, doing the work, even if you're scared, doing the work. Um, and this could be a bit of a plot twist for some of us, depending on your placements. This could be where, you know, you were holding a vision and then suddenly that vision changes, or you were taking action and then suddenly something happens and you have to change trajectory. You have to change action, um, like a pivot in your timeline or a pivot in like where you're directing your energies. And that could be sudden and shocking and surprising, or it could just be more like you get insight, you get a download, or you get you something uh, wakes you up, to doing something in a new way and innovating something in a new way. And that could be it too. So, what I would recommend for this eclipse is taking time to reflect on what's being exposed to you as far as like your shadows go. What needs to shed so that you can move forward and connect with the people, the relationships, the money, the values, come together with others and organize or strategize with others, collaborate with others. Aquarius is very collaborative, kind of zodiac sign. It gets results through collaboration. And this might be like where you are collaborating. You are finding a way to collaborate with others and needing more counsel or strategy around that. Another thing that's going to be happening soon after this eclipse is that Pisces is going to be going retrograde, and It will station retrograde on the 25th of February, Hawaii time. So this is going to go all the way back past the North Node and move forward again in March. So again, when Mercury goes retrograde, I mean, this is kind of signaling some stuff. I mean, when Mercury goes retrograde, this is kind of circling something in our lives that needs to be reviewed, reworked, redone, reassessed, so possibly something can be initiated, possibly something can happen. There could be some insight or change of action, and that requires us to review, redo, re-edit, renew, recharge, go within. Mercury retrograde is a very internal energy, and having it in Pisces, unfortunately, it's in its detriment in Pisces, which means it has to work extra hard. This would be a time where it's easy to make mistakes, easy to miss the details, easy to want to escape or, you know, lose touch with reality. It could be a time when you're deep in your creativity, you're in an internal creative process, or you're in an internal process around reimagining something, or it could be an internal process where you're, yeah, maybe reimagining something, or going within and having a deeper connection with yourself spiritually, translating things that are happening spiritually, collectively that impact you or that you want to be a part of. So, yeah, having an eclipse, it's like Saturn moves to Aries. We have an eclipse, then we have this conjunction, then, pretty much with this conjunction the same day, Mercury goes retrograde. So whatever's happening, it's kind of signaling that something needs to be reworked after this. Something has to be reworked and redone or reviewed after this experience, that we all have to do collectively, but the way that shows up for you personally is going to be unique to you. I do really sense the benevolence in all of this. Anytime I've witnessed chaos or things dissolving, things collapsing in my personal experience as well as other people's lives, at first it can be shocking. At first it can be chaotic. At first it can bring a lot of disorder. But then the new energy comes in, and this is like global, it's like, all right, this is a collapse moment, if not physical, energetic. And this allows new energy to come in. And so at first it might be destabilizing or chaotic in some way on a collective level, but really it's a good sign. It's a good sign that we're inviting in new energy. And this is the beginning of a new way things are expressing themselves on Earth. Our systems can express themselves. We might see new leaders. We might see, people, really being confronted. We might see a new energy regarding our masculine energy. We might see more examples of benevolent, masculine energy that's protecting us, or fighting for us, or, leading in ways that are more conscious. So it's going to be exciting to see this all unfold. It's quite a moment in history. All right. Take care, everyone. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. I love, love, love to hear from you. So write me a comment. Something that's coming up for you in this eclipse would be awesome to hear. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, please give this podcast a rating. And again, I love to hear from you. So like, share, comment. That's like giving me a big psychic hug, a way of showing your appreciation. And I will see you on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.